Welcome to Apaga University. I'm Inga.
And I'm Julie. We are two
momtrepreneurs
who have built an in-home care business from the ground up, guided every step of the way by God's care and fueled by agape love.
16 years later and over 100 podcast episodes already under our belts, we invite you to continue on this journey with us as we share stories that resonate, insights that inspire, and practical guidance that empowers you to face any obstacle along this path.
Whether you're a professional caregiver, a family member, or are simply curious about what your steps will be when you need them, you have come to the right place.
Oh, hey, and while you're here, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And after that, make sure you send this to a friend.
Yes, do it. All right, we'll quit fooling around and get to it.
Let's go. Class is in session.
Hello, Sunshines, and hello, Julie, and hello, Dianna. How are you today?
I'm doing well.
Yay, we're so excited to have you here on our podcast.
Glad to be here.
What's new with you, Jules?
Well, first off, we have to thank Faith,
yes,
one of the women that works with us down in the Polson area, for introducing us to you. Because what happened is that we had the two previous podcasts were about Social Security, SSI, SSDI, all of the stuff that is so confusing to most people. And Faith listened to those podcasts, and then she was, you know who you need to talk to? And I called you, and you said yes immediately, and here we are.
It's going to be really good, you guys. So
Yeah.
listeners, hang on. I'm literally on the edge of my seat.
Oh, so much
You've been
information.
talking to us just a little bit, before we started recording, and I'm just very, very drawn in. So
Yeah.
we'll go through the formality of all the other things that we do before we get to the good stuff. So we're going to get started with our verse. And the verse for this podcast is John chapter 14, verse 27. It says, I leave you peace. It is my own peace I give you. I give you peace in a different way than the world does. So don't be troubled. Don't be afraid.
I'm hoping that people that listen to this podcast can get some peace, understanding that there are people like you out there that absolutely know this stuff and can help their peace by getting educated and into the proper programs and get the assistance that they need.
Yes. And I heard a long time ago, and I say it every now and again, but knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
So the more you know about things, just the better you are. So I'm excited to have you here and just to learn. Well, tell us your good news story, Julie.
Well, this is just amazing where we are with medicine at this point. A Chinese doctor removes a patient's lung tumor using a robot from 3,000 miles away.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So they have pictures of it, but basically, just like the title says, using a robot, this guy literally helped take a tumor off of somebody. And I just can't even believe the things that they do with robots and all of that nowadays. It's just very, very amazing. And to have this kind of technology nowadays, that's all I'm going to say about it. It's just the title because it's that amazing to me. So that's my
wild.
good news
and
story.
What a leap of faith when you're like, oh yeah, my guy that's doing the surgery, he's 3,000 miles away. Got his little joystick or something.
Yeah.
So you do have to give it a little bit to the video game kids, right? That get all skilled and practiced on those things. Because I would think that people operating those things.
Well, I can't hardly even move a mouse without screwing up the whole thing. So can you imagine? I will never be that guy from 3,000 miles away.
Doing the surgery.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I brought a daily wisdom. I generally just fall back on my daily wisdoms because they're so good. And
Yes.
It's by Julie Fournier, and it's out of it's actually the basketball book of all things, but I feel like it always relates to life in general. And this is actually a quote from Tony Bennett. It says, my father took his team to a Final Four. They beat Purdue, and I memorized his quote. He said a quote that I've never forgotten, and it stuck with me for that long. They asked him, is this one of the greatest feelings that you've ever had, getting to the Final Four? And he said this, from a feeling state of euphoria, yes, it is, but it doesn't compare with faith, with kids, family, grandkids, because I know what truly matters, and it enables me to enjoy what seems to matter, like this. I've remembered that quote, and I've tried my best to live by it. I've wanted this program to honor what's important to me, my faith in these young men through success and through failure. That's what I wanted. As a competitor, you go after it and you want to do it, but the bigger picture, you have to be at peace with both. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that that's really interesting, because if you do understand and know the things that really, 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 truly matter, then you are able to enjoy the things that seem like they should matter, right?
Wow. Who was it that said that quote?
Tony Bennett.
Okay.
Some coach's kid. And I'll probably get stoned if anybody on here knows basketball that I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't. Tony Bennett to me is like some kind of musician.
Wait, is it Pat Bennett? Alyssa, who's the basketball coach? Oh, darn it. Okay, well, anyway, it's just good information for life in general.
So good. I'm going to I have somebody I want to send that quote to as soon as we're done here.
Oh, perfect.
I love it so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Yay. Well, like Julie talked about just a little bit ago, our last 2 podcast episodes, we talked about Social Security, supplemental security income, and then Social Security disability income. Mm-hmm. Then Faith, our wonderful caregiver that also did a podcast for us before on surgery, preparing for surgery. Faith is amazing. She said, hey, I know a lady for you. And so we're actually going to get some more in-depth details on the things that we talked about in the 2 previous podcasts, but more than just that. So I'm going to introduce you. This is Dianna Kintzler. Am I saying it right?
You
Kintzler.
got it. Yep.
Okay. All right. So she works with Summit Independent Living and is the Flathead and Lincoln County coordinator. However, she does so much more than that. So
many hats.
Yes. So we're just going to turn it over and let you talk a little bit and tell us what you came to tell us.
All right. Again, happy to be here. And would like to first kind of start by explaining what is a Center for Independent Living, which is, Summit Independent Living is a Center for Independent Living. Center for Independent Living is federally funded and started in Berkeley. This is a longer story for another podcast. However, federal funding came out of the Rehab Act of 1973. And this allowed funding in all 50 states for centers like the one I work at. And Centers for Independent Living are designed and operated by individuals with disabilities. 51% of our staff must have a disability. We provide independent living services to people with disabilities. We work to support community living, so independent living. We want to, we believe that people can live with dignity, make their own choices, and participate fully in society. The programs that we offer provide tools, resources, and supports for integrating people with disabilities into their communities to promote equal opportunities, self-determination, and respect. Centers for Independent Living are mandated to provide 5 core services, and we have a few extra services at ours, but the 5 core are information and referral. That is, where can I get this? Where could I find a doorbell that flashes if I'm a person who's deaf? Or who can I talk to about my landlord discriminating against me? Or any type of question that they might have. And oftentimes, the answer that we must give is that let me look at this, let me research, let's troubleshoot this issue and get back with you, especially here in a rural community. Oftentimes there aren't a whole lot of services available, and sometimes it takes a village as it goes. Independent living skills training is another core service that we offer, and that is any type of skill that a person might need to learn so they can live independently, from balancing a checkbook to maybe couponing. And our center works in conjunction with other grant funding to have cooking classes or things of the like. Peer counseling is provided by people who work for our centers on a limited basis, and they are people with varying disabilities, and they can be matched with others in the community to provide support to them. And typically what you want your peers to be is well-rounded, having survived through navigating some systems, maybe Social Security or other systems, and come out on top, positive attitude, ready to mentor. Individual and systems advocacy. So that could be, individual advocacy is just about the person. Systems is about laws, policies, and protections. So we can work on a grassroots level, within our state or our country to try and change laws that might help people with disabilities, or maybe there's something in place that's hurting people with disabilities. We want to change that. And then the last service is transition services. And this could be a person who wants to transition out of an institutional setting and integrate back into the community. Or it could be a transition-aged youth who is getting ready to, become an adult and move into post-secondary life. And they just need a little bit of help within that transition. So everybody has a Center for Independent Living in this country. You can find your Center for Independent Living by visiting the ILRU website. And the web address is ilru.org. And there is a map. You can click your state. You can find what's available in your state. If you are, not really too familiar with the lay of the land, call one of the numbers in your state. They will tell you, what county do you live in? And then they will provide you with that information. And they will provide you with information about basically anything related to living independently. Independent living is, something that wasn't always. This is actually a civil rights movement. Not even that far back in the past, we had some pretty ridiculous laws going on. Could you imagine ugly laws? Chicago, 1973. Can't go outside if you're unsightly. Got to wait until dark. This is a real thing. Not so far away.
I'm in trouble.
Oh. So anyway, and how that these kind of ideals got put in place, like the term hysterical, right? This was a thing. These women are hysterical. Let's lock them up. Let's institutionalize them. So this is a long time coming, the independent living movement, and it's been a fight. And it is, like I said, a civil rights movement. And out of this movement and out of these protests and out of all of the effort and the blood, sweat, and tears of our leaders was, independent living was born.
Wow.
And it really does help a lot of folks. Independent living centers must comply with independent living philosophy. Independent living philosophy surrounds 4 core ideas. The first one is consumer control. So we don't call people clients. They don't pay for our services. They are consumers. And they are the ones that make a choice. I don't call up folks and go, you look like you'd be a good candidate for Social Security. Let me just help you with that. That's not how it works. The person has to call our center and say, hey, I heard that I might be able to get these benefits. And maybe we're guiding them on how to apply on their own. Or maybe there's a barrier that's stopping them from applying. And so we're going to help them with that, overcome whatever barrier that might be. It might be with follow-up. They can't follow up. It might be that they have nerve damage in their hands and they can't type. It might be that they can't speak. So many different things. And so it's all about that consumer control and them calling us and asking us for help with whatever their situation might be. The second core around IL philosophy is individualization. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. So it's all about the individual and what their goals are and what their wants are. Just because they have the same disability as somebody else, that doesn't mean that they need or want the same services. The fourth idea is cross-disability. This means we serve all disabilities, not just one particular disability. And then the other core idea is peer support, and we talked about that already. But we believe that people with disabilities often know how to best serve others with the same or similar disabilities. And the lived experience of having that disability is invaluable, and that is the best way to support other people with disabilities. So we have to operate in a way that conforms with the promotion of IL philosophy. We have to operate in CILs must operate in compliance with promotion of IL philosophy, provision of those 5 core services I talked about on a cross-disability basis. We must provide for support for development and achievement of IL goals chosen by the consumer. We must make efforts to increase the availability of quality community options for independent living. We have to provide those core services as appropriate. It might be a combination of one or more service, depending on the individual's needs. We must also build community capacity to meet the needs of individuals with significant disabilities. And we also need to work toward resource development activities and to secure other funding sources. So sometimes we apply for grant funding to provide, extra things that we are not federally funded or mandated for. One of those, an example of that recently, I applied for a grant for food for our youth group because we have a very limited budget. And of course, we can't provide food or transportation because those aren't mandated. So that allowed us to take our youth group on a little trip, and we got some food, and we went to a baseball game. Aww. And we had a really great time. And so that's how we kind of work. And also the peer support rolls out naturally. If you put a group of people and they all have different disabilities, you put them at a table together, you just watch it unfold. It facilitates itself naturally. And it's a beautiful thing. So that's kind of a nutshell version of what independent living philosophy is and what a Center for Independent Living is. And so, again, you can visit that ILRU website to locate the CIL nearest you. And any questions, just call one of the numbers. People are very willing to give you the correct information and link you up with your CIL, who in turn will link you up with any information and referral that you might need to obtain services and supports to live independently.
So the Summit Independent Living, the CIL here in Kalispell, what is the area that you serve?
This office here, Summit Independent Living as a whole, serves the western portion of the state.
Okay.
So from Ravalli all the way up to the border.
Okay.
And we have 4 centers for independent living in Montana, and they serve the North Central area is North Central Independent Living. LIFT is Living Independently for Today and Tomorrow. They serve the Billings kind of area.
Okay.
And then we have Ability Montana, who serves Bozeman, Butte, that kind of portion of the state.
Okay.
Yep.
And they are all, they're not a government agency, correct? They're private?
Yeah, we are a nonprofit organization, but we are federally funded to some extent to provide these core services.
Sure.
Yep, under ACL.
Wow. So with all of that you work under, part of it was the Social Security that had brought you into our light. And so kind of take us down that road.
Sure.
Then, because you had lots of examples and things that you wanted to share.
Yes. So the Social Security work falls under that core service of advocacy oftentimes. And that could be difficulty applying or that dreaded letter, we have paid you way too much in Social Security benefits. You need to pay this all back. So it could be either one of those things. It could be understanding what's going to happen to your cash benefit and your health insurance if you want to choose to go back to work. And so it's very complex and complicated. And how I kind of got my feet wet, so to speak, was, well, I got pushed in to the deep end of the pool. And I would meet folks and they would have an issue. And then it was my job to kind of help them understand what was happening, which is, kind of, you can't help them if you don't understand what's happening. Sure. So basically what you do is you get signed consent to communicate with Social Security on that person's behalf, and you visit Social Security or call Social Security and you ask questions about their case or how they got overpaid, or maybe it's why they're not qualifying for a certain benefit. And then you can explain that to the person. And oftentimes people get the two types of benefits confused, or oftentimes people have irrational fears or other myths they really believe about Social Security. Like I heard through the grapevine, gosh, I'm just going to lose out all of this stuff if I work, and oftentimes that's not true. And so there's a whole lot of topics about Social Security, but I would like to just kind of revisit a few that I kind of overheard on the podcast. I want to kind of walk it back and let's talk about some little extra things. So I did try to break it down into groups, and the first type of benefit I would like to kind of share a few things about is SSI. And if you haven't watched the 2 episodes, I suggest you go back, or listened. I would suggest you go back and check those out, because there was a lot of great information and a good description about the difference between these 2 types of benefits. So starting with SSI, the first thing I would like to address that I heard was, oh gosh, you got to be really poor to get this SSI, which is true. But I want to highlight some ways out of poverty that are available to folks who are on SSI that let you have a little bit more money than that $2,000 if you're single and $3,000 if you're married. The first one is special needs trusts. So if you visit a lawyer and you set up a special needs trust, and these funds are only able to be utilized for medical need that is protected, and it cannot be counted as a resource when Social Security is determining financial eligibility. The second one I would like to talk about is achieving better life experience accounts, or ABLE accounts. You can put about $18,000 a year in an ABLE account. However, ABLE accounts are restricted to those folks who were disabled prior to age 26, and that's going to change in 2026. We're raising that age limit up to 46 years old, but that's going to allow those people who were young and acquired a disability to save money, tuck money away, and use it for a better life experience. That could be education or anything that would make their life better. It could be home modifications or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then the third one is IDA accounts. And IDAs vary from state to state, and that stands for individual development accounts. And here in Montana, we have a program through NeighborWorks that helps you buy a home. So you could tuck a bunch of your money away for a down payment on a home and become a homeowner. And so I wanted to kind of put that out there, little kernels of hope that there are ways, and we are working on it. Let me tell you, in this movement, we are working on changing these laws, and we are working on trying to get these asset limits raised, and it's a long, row to hoe, but we are working on it, and there is movement about these things finally happening. Several years. These asset limits are antiquated, so something, hopefully, change is going to come soon on that. The other thing I wanted to talk about are some SSI reductions, things that can reduce the amount of SSI that you are entitled to. And the first one is called in-kind support and maintenance, or ISM. And that is when somebody is providing support to you that is not necessarily cash. And types of ISM would be like if a person was living rent-free in a relative's dwelling. The other reduction that can occur is deeming. And deeming can happen spouse to spouse or parent to child. And you touched on that when you were talking about SSI, that your spouse's income can impact that. Deeming calculation, there is really no quick and an easy way to kind of say, oh, you're going to be deemed this amount. Deeming calculations are only performed by Social Security. And then parent to child deeming is different than spouse to spouse. So it's not as hard of a sting when it's parent to child deeming, whereas spouse to spouse deeming, it's pretty stringent, and it doesn't take much income to kind of zero out or really reduce that SSI that's coming in. And the other reduction is called VTR, or value of 1/3 reduction. And this is when there is a child on SSI who's living in the household who cannot prove that they are paying their fair share of expenses. And so they're going to take into consideration the mortgage and every cost that it takes to keep that household going, the utilities, the water, the grocery costs. And if it is determined that the child can't pay their fair share, they're going to put that reduction on them, called the value of 1/3 reduction. A good thing about ISM, recently they have, it's been put into to law that they can no longer count food in an in-kind support and maintenance calculation, whereas before, if your dear Aunt Sally gave you a $200 gift card for Smith's, you're supposed to report that to Social Security and it can be deducted as ISM. But that can no longer happen, so that's a good change, positive change happening. And then I also wanted to talk about retrospective monthly accounting. And this is kind of creating a roller coaster for folks, because what happens this month is going to impact your SSI cash benefit 2 months down the line. Making people aware of retrospective monthly accounting kind of helps them, although they're on the roller coaster, get that seatbelt buckled in, know what to expect. Always best to educate yourself. Again, contact your SIL, contact a person like me if you have any questions about this. And you're probably going to hear me say that 3 or 4 times throughout, but it's very important to talk to somebody who knows, and talk to somebody who will question these things. If you get a letter that says we've paid you too much and you don't think it's correct, take it to your SIL, take it to somebody, show them the correspondence that you received, and show them the reason why you think it's not right, and perhaps you are correct and they are incorrect. It happens all the time, trust me. And so there are ways of kind of disputing anything that Social Security sends you, and there are ways of continuing your benefits if they think you're no longer disabled. And so, again, reach out to your SIL.
Something that we had said in the previous 2 podcasts was to talk with a financial advisor, but it really sounds like someone like you is more appropriate, especially for a lot of these, underlying or different circumstances that may create an opportunity either for good or bad.
Yeah. And I do think that financial advisor is a wonderful person to talk to about the retirement piece. But as far as the ins and outs of eligibility or, when you need advocacy, a SIL is a better place.
Yeah.
And no shade to the financial advisors out there. Shout out, Scott. But, you've got to kind of know which direction to go and whether you need financial advice or advocacy. And there are people who are trained like me to understand all of the ins and outs, and you can find them at your SIL.
How does a consumer end up with you?
Word of mouth around here, a lot of word of mouth. I get a lot of referrals from other agencies. Folk Rehab refers folks to me. I get referrals from the Greater Valley Health. I get referrals from doctors' offices. I got a referral from a private counselor last week. And so it's kind of word of mouth. We have a website also, and we are listed as a resource on the 211. And then just people that have worked with me before, a lot of people that I work with out of Lincoln County say, oh, you helped my friend.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of that. And I do need to get over there and shake some hands and pass out some brochures and cards and stuff like that. So right now, a lot of the underserved area right now that I'm feeling a little tad guilty about is Lincoln County. Oh. And I do know that there are folks out there that could use my help.
How do you do it all, though? Because it sounds like I mean, this is a big deal. Even researching what we talked about the last 2 podcasts, none of these programs that you just discussed were even brought up. Of course, we were just skimming the top, and we know that there's a huge life underneath that. But this is just unbelievable. I don't know how you have enough time to do it all by yourself.
Well, I say this to my coworkers all the time, that their stress or suffering far outweighs my stress. So bring it on. It might take a couple weeks for me to help you, but I love to help people. I really am passionate about helping people, about giving them positive messages, showing them that they can succeed, they can work, they can be integrated. There is a place for them. They can speak up for themselves. I'm recently working with a person who wasn't doing much of that. Yeah, and we are doing actually a Human Rights Bureau complaint together. And I don't ever get into these because oftentimes I'm just the sounding board. And this one in particular, the gentleman has issues that prevent him from too much screen time, his difficulty with his speech patterns, and also he has a traumatic brain injury, which causes a little bit of behavioral, stuff going on. And so I'm a little more hands-on this one, and I'm actually really enjoying it because I'm modeling to him how to self-advocate, which is now he's advocated to Voc Rehab, and he's advocating about himself getting a different job, and he's got himself a mode of transportation rather than the bus system around here, which we all kind of know what goes along with that. And so just watching this unfold, it's beautiful.
You are empowering people so much.
Yeah. And that to me is far more rich than any salary that they would pay me, is watching these people develop into these fierce advocates. And it's, you watch them go, I can't do that. I can't say that, And then once you model this behavior and, show them, yes, you can speak up for yourself, and this, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, then they start squeaking.
That's amazing.
So one quick question. You were working with disabled. Who determines if they qualify for you?
Them. Self-reporting.
Okay.
And like I said, cross-disability, they just identify. And that could be anything. It could be depression.
Oh, interesting.
It could be anything.
So hearing problems.
Cross-disability, any disability. And again, they're self-reporting to me.
It's not a specific diagnosis. It's someone comes to you and says, I need your help.
Yes. And sometimes that help is informational help. And sometimes it's consumer help, which is a little bit more in depth, where we have a file and we sign an agreement. Oftentimes we have a verbal agreement that we're going to make a goal. And then we keep up with that goal and try to achieve that goal. Sometimes we have multiple goals going at one time. Sometimes a person says, whoa, one thing at a time. And I say, okay, you're in charge, consumer. And that's kind of how it rolls.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. How many employees work here at Summit Independent, here just in the Kalispell area?
Right now I have 3 peer advocates, and I'm looking for more peers, anyone out there. I'm the only office worker, and we do have an open ILS position, which is kind of doing similar to just the 5 core. And then that person would eventually learn some more of the nuances of Social Security and kind of get into that. And so right now it's the 3 peer advocates, and then I've created a position for one of them who is going to be coming on more hours every week and taking over some of my hats. Maybe two to start, and then we'll see how many I can throw on her.
How many consumers, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but how many consumers do you, at any given time, are receiving services from you?
I would take a guess that I probably do about 80 INRs a month. And those are phone calls. And then I think I have probably about 40 open consumer files, and they're active. Open means active. Mm-hmm. And so that doesn't mean that they can't get service if I close their file. I just move it to this inactive if they've achieved their goal.
Right.
But the minute they call me back and say, hey, I want to work on this,
then we're back.
We're back to open again. And so it can vary. I have in the past, several years back, say 2015, I took a little break from this job. Mm-hmm. And at that point, when I left for a little bit, I had 120 open consumer files.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And so it just kind of depends. And then a lot of the services we don't want to duplicate. So a lot of the services that are available in the community through other agencies, we don't want to provide those services.
Sure.
So if somebody calls me and I have a question about Medicare plans, and open enrollment's coming up, and they are old enough for agency on aging services, I'm going to send them over there.
Sure.
And oftentimes, insurance broker can help with folks who don't qualify for that. So sometimes I'll send them, if I can't help them within what I think is a satisfying timeline, I'll say, hey, why don't you go talk to this agent over here who I have a relationship with, and I know that will sit down and be patient and accommodating to folks.
Yep.
And so I just try to manage as best I can, and it's really not that bad. I think right now I'm maybe like 2.5 weeks out for appointments, and oftentimes if there's, say one of those meetings that could have been an email, I'll push it aside if there's a person who is in a situation that might be threatening their housing situation, or if it's a little more dire.
Sure.
But we are not a crisis agency.
Right.
So we don't, we can't really drop what we're doing. And if a person's in crisis, we're going to refer them, of course, to the appropriate place.
Right. Wow. How amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. And it sounds like maybe we are going to arm wrestle and see if we can have you back again for another episode that just expands more on the things that you are able to help with. But how cool.
Yeah. Wow. You do a lot, and it's very impressive, and we probably do need to have another.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even get to all the different types of insured benefits.
Yeah.
And another thing I really like to get out there is about the message about working. Yes. And that you can, in most situations, you can work and you can keep your health insurance, and you come out on top and you've got more money. And so I'd love to come back and talk about more with you all.
Yeah, I think that is the big thing. People just get really nervous about that, about thinking that if they do one thing, they're going to actually go backwards. But I would love to be able to delve into that a little bit further on another episode.
Yeah, I am very thankful that we've come together, and I see a lot of co-working together in the future.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listeners, if you have a good news story, if you have a quote, you can email those things to julie@apagahomecare.com or inga@apagahomecare.com. And we always try to round out with some type of a quote or some type of a words of wisdom. And so I believe Julie asked you to bring something, and you had a good one.
I did bring a quote. Of course, it's from a famous disability advocate. Of course, right? So it's by Helen Keller. And the quote is, "Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much."
Boom.
Mic drop.
Amazing.
Wow. Yes, thank you for your time. We were just so lucky to get you on such a quick turnaround here and get you in. And obviously we have more and more to talk about. But I think the biggest takeaway from this is there are people like you out there that can help these folks and just build on what we started and get to where they need to be in their lives for peace, like our Bible verse was when we started.
Yep. And I just say again, call your SIL, find your SIL, email your SIL. And, all SILs are accommodating to people with any and all types of disabilities. So like I said, find your SIL. It's a great resource. And if they can't help you, they'll point you in the direction of who can.
And so that website again was ilru.org.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Gonna be looking it up.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, peace out, Girl Scouts.
Thank you so much for coming. Have a good day.
The Caregiven name is a registered trademark of the Veritrust Health Incorporated Company. IPAGA is not connected to, affiliated with, or endorsed by Veritrust or any of its affiliates.